said today it is unconscionable that Iraq, with a leader who used chemical weapons against his own people, should be in a position to acquire nuclear weapons in the not-too-distant future. But U.S. intelligence sources tell ABC News that may be the case. A classified assessment indicates Iraq may be capable of building a nuclear bomb within 2 years. This assessment, though hotly debated within the intelligence community, has enormous implications for whether the United States will use force against Iraq. Here's ABC's John McWethy.
What has alarmed the American intelligence community is the possibility that Iraq will dip into a stockpile of uranium that could be used to build a nuclear bomb. Until now, this weapons-grade uranium has been under strict international supervision. It was originally purchased from France and the Soviet Union to help Iraq develop a nuclear power plant. The International Atomic Energy Agency has routinely inspected this Iraqi stockpile and was due to send inspectors again next month. But after economic sanctions were imposed on Iraq, its ambassador to the energy agency threatened not to allow further inspections, setting off alarm bells around the world. The Iraqis have about 55 pounds of highly enriched uranium in that stockpile, enough to make at least one bomb, analysts say, in 2 years or less. Leonard Spector is a leading researcher on nuclear proliferation.
I think if they refuse to allow inspectors in November to verify that this quantity of weapon-grade material is not being tampered with, I think you would have a very serious crisis. I mean, this is the sort of thing that could trigger a conflict.
While immediate concern is focused on the weapons-grade uranium that we know about, analysts say a far greater long-term worry is what we do not know about Iraq's nuclear program, the part that Iraq has kept secret. Intelligence sources say Iraq has spent hundreds of millions of dollars around the world to buy the raw materials and technology needed to make not just 1 or 2 bombs in a hurry, but hundreds of them from scratch. Though doing it from scratch would take longer, at least 3 to 5 years, the size of Iraq's effort is sobering. Raw materials. Iraq has a stockpile of at least 1,000 tons of partially processed uranium like this, called yellow cake. If enriched, it could be enough to build hundreds of nuclear bombs. Technology. Iraq appears to have built gas centrifuge units similar to these that are at the heart of the enrichment process. Analysts say they would need thousands of such units to enrich significant amounts of uranium, and it is not clear where they are in this effort. But one thing is clear: if Saddam Hussein refuses to allow inspectors into his country next month, that will be reason to worry that he has decided to speed up his drive to build a nuclear bomb. That, in turn, would weigh heavily in decisions that President Bush must make about whether to use military force against Iraq. John McWethy, ABC News, Washington.
President Bush today again ruled out any deal with Iraq short of a complete pullout from Kuwait. Saddam Hussein's aggression, he said, should not be rewarded by some compromise. Mr. Bush also met with one of Mikhail Gorbachev's closest advisors. Yevgeny Primakov said he hoped a solution could be found without using military force. There's strong support among Europeans for military action in the Gulf, according to a new poll. 70% of those surveyed in Britain, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain back the use of force to drive Iraq from Kuwait. In the United States, recent polls indicate less support for the military option. And now there's an effort here to build an anti-war movement. Here's ABC's John McKenzie.
On dozens of college campuses all across the country, there's an old movement with a new message.
Bring the troops home now. No U.S. war for oil company profit.
The peace movement is once again organizing and mobilizing, signing up activists like Paul Dotson, a graduate student at Virginia Tech. Dotson is in the Marine Reserves, but now wants out.
I'm not going to die and I'm not going to kill anybody just because people in America think that they should be able to drive for $1.25 a gallon.
No for war, yes for peace. U.S. out of the Middle East.
Unlike the 60s, the peace movement of the 90s is made up of different groups with different objectives. Environmentalists want the U.S. out of the Middle East because they want the U.S. less dependent on oil. Social activists want the troops home to free up more money for the homeless and unemployed. Some veterans groups want to avoid further bloodshed in foreign wars and have bought television airtime.
We don't want another Vietnam. How many more body bags and graveyards and monuments? How many more Americans coming home in wheelchairs, like me, will it take before we learn?
Coalition, can I help you?
In most major cities, Americans have volunteered to organize rallies and spread the word. So far, their numbers have been small, but not their enthusiasm. This movement is using many methods of the 60s. Heckling during the president's speech in Des Moines. Pouring red paint at the entrance to a military base in San Francisco. A teach-in this afternoon at Harvard University.
What do we want? Peace! When do we want it? Now!
Peace activists say that if they learned anything from the Vietnam experience, it's the need to demonstrate loudly and quickly, to protest now, before shots are fired. John McKenzie, ABC News, New York.
The Pentagon said today that the Army will send several hundred more of its most modern M1A1 tanks from Germany to Saudi Arabia, more than doubling the number available for Operation Desert Shield. They have more firepower and better defenses against chemical warfare than the regular M1 tanks. In Baghdad today, two announcements. All foreign citizens were told to register with local authorities by November 5th or face prosecution. The U.S. and other governments have resisted such orders before. Iraqi authorities also had orders for their own citizens. A month after rationing food, Iraq will now ration gasoline. Here's ABC's Peter Collins.
Iraqis are already lining up for gas and trying to fill plastic cans with motor oil before rationing begins Tuesday, a sign that the American-led embargo is having an impact. Although Iraq has the world's second largest reserves of oil, its refining capacity is limited. It needs to import lead additives and other chemicals to refine high-octane gas, and these are not getting through the blockade. And Iraq may lack the kind of expert technicians and spare parts needed to restart Kuwaiti refineries that were shut down before the Iraqi army could get to them last August. In announcing the rationing, Iraq's oil minister indicated it was meant to save limited supplies for military use.
The only reason behind that is to ensure that we will have enough of the additives and the chemicals that we require to produce these products for as long period as it is required.
Food rationing has been in effect for weeks, but Western analysts believe it will be shortages of spare parts and chemicals that will pressure the Iraqis long before they go hungry. Peter Collins, ABC News, Amman, Jordan.
A big drop today on the price of oil on world markets. West Texas crude sold for less than $34 a barrel. That's down $3 today, down $6 from where it was a week ago. And that helps sustain the rally on Wall Street, where the Dow Jones Industrials gained 68 points to close at 2520. The trading was heavy. That brought the gain for the week to more than 122.